You are live. Okay, it says I am live here. I don't know if I am or not, but we're supposed to be having a conversation with Judy Prochnow. She said her screen name on YouTube was Deep State Granny. And that was supposed to be right now. She said 12 o'clock her time, and it is 12 o'clock her time. I do not see her online as of yet, but this was supposed to be a discussion about the David Crowley case, and she was supposed to explain why she felt David is guilty. And again, it's just a carryover. I had invited them to a discussion with Greg and our group who believed David to be innocent on Saturday. They didn't show. Somebody said that they had logged in, but nobody, they dialed in probably. I don't know. I didn't see the statistics, but no one from the group logged in and had a discussion, even typed a question. And we were on air for 2.5 hours. We were live, I should say, for 2.5 hours. And it was a no-show. So I'm just sitting here waiting for Judy to show up. And again, it's so funny. If they do come online, it will be nice because I hope we can get past the, how do I put this? There are too many times where it feels like I'm dealing with a third grader. I mean, the woman is almost 70, and the old Catherine's a liar. I can prove her a liar. She's this, she's that. And, and I'm just like, wow, really? Okay. But anyway, it's like, just talk, be an adult and talk. So I'm still waiting for the adult conversation. Would be nice. But if you guys missed our live stream on Saturday, on the Grace Stage YouTube channel, which is run by Greg Fernandez Jr. I did post that video, and you will find that in my video links. And it was a really good discussion. We did have a viewer who jumped online with us, and her name was Joanna. And she'd come in about halfway through the conversation, and she had some really interesting things to say. So if you haven't watched that video yet, I forget the title of it, something like, is David guilty? Let me see if I can pull that up really fast. Give me a second here. It'll just take me a minute. Is David Crowley innocent or guilty? Full version. But definitely watch that, and especially when you get to the halfway point. It's 2.5 hours long. We went online and we waited, and it's a great video. It was a really good discussion. I learned a lot of things about how Apple Valley Police Department runs things, other cases that they've handled, fumbled, however you wish to look at that. But it was definitely interesting. As far as things that we're working on now with the case, I have so many different directions at the moment, but I have been doing a lot of background checks on everyone involved in this case, everyone that I can think of. And I found some pretty interesting things. The number one thing that I did find is that almost everybody is connected in one point or another, and has been connected either through work, through friends, through whatever, for a very, very long time. A lot of them have ties to the Freemasons. A lot of them, it's kind of almost like the Good Old Boys Club, if you guys are old enough to remember that. I've worked a lot of jobs where the good old boys, if you weren't a guy, you were just like 12th class citizen. And I'm so thankful that doesn't happen anymore. Not really, not to the degree it did before. Sorry, had to have coffee. Dutch Bros. Okay, this shout out to Dutch Bros. Love Dutch Bros. They're way better than the other place. Dutch Bros, yay. But yes, again, still waiting, and I wish I could share my screen. I don't know if I can do that. This is my first time live. if I could share my screen, I would show you guys that Deep State Granny is not live right now. She has not even come online. And if you want to, because they'll go and, oh, we have proof we did this and did that. You can go to YouTube right now, go to the Deep State Granny YouTube channel, and you will see she's not live. She's not even on. She's not on at all. And again, this just proves that they have nothing to back up their stance on this case at all. Nothing at all. And, other than the name calling, there's a term, I guess most people have heard of it, doxing. They dox people, and which is really, really immature. and it's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear about somebody's past that has nothing to do with the case, which is why there's things that I have found on other people that has nothing to do with the case. So I'm not going to bring it up. Why do that? It makes no sense. It's stupid. But if it relates to the case, absolutely. I will bring that out. And I don't consider that doxing. I consider that background research as to what possibly could have led them down the road that they went regarding the case. Anyway, it's like, don't tell me about somebody's personal life or what you think about their personal life, and then use that as an excuse to say, oh, see, they don't know what they're doing. No, give me something from the case, anything. If you truly in your heart believe David is guilty, come up and say, well, here in the documents in this report, here's where it is. And that's all I've ever asked for, but it's not in the documents. Instead, we know there is no bullet. They never found the bullet that killed David. So if he committed suicide after murdering his family, that bullet would have been in the house. It's not there. Where's his blood? Where's his brain matter? Where's Ranya's blood? And other things, again, because she's just a little baby. I don't want to go into too much detail about that. It's just not right. But someone said, Third Eye said hello. Hi, Third Eye. I know, Deep State Granny, that was her name. It cracks me up. But I'm still waiting for her to come live, and she's not here. It doesn't surprise me, no. But to go back to the case, the evidence shows, again, no bullet for David, none. There's no bullet that has his tissue, his blood, his brain matter, his hair, nothing on it. There's one bullet, a fragment, I think it was a bullet itself that they found in the attic a month later by somebody else who was in the house, who wasn't supposed to be, who lied. It was Chris Klein who called the police and said, hey, we think you guys missed something. You missed a shot into the ceiling. And I'm sorry, I will argue with the police department on this until hell freezes over. If they walk in that house on February 17th and their first words are, it's an obvious defect in the ceiling. So if it's obvious on the 17th of February, why was it not obvious on the 17th, 18th, and 19th of January? Nobody else saw this hole. Nobody. And then a month later, Chris Klein finds it, calls the police. And this is the one that supposedly has David's DNA, but they don't say where this DNA comes from. But they specifically state no blood. The reports state that no blood found on the bullet. Now that cannot enter through his head, enter, exit, and have none of his bodily tissues on it. Just doesn't work that way. And then, so again, there's evidence that who killed him? Where's that bullet? There's no blood of David in that house. Nothing tested belonged to anybody other than Kamel. Kamel's blood was the only blood that was found in that house, and still, not enough of it in any particular area. The blood stains, the blood spatter on the floor shows that there was movement. And this blood that I'm talking about in these spatter patterns, they didn't test, so we don't know whose blood it is, but we can guess or assume that maybe it belonged to Kamel. So whoever's blood is on this floor, They were moving. They were trying to get away, and at the process, they were bleeding. And again, they didn't follow that up. They didn't do. They just didn't do anything. And I know Joe Cooksley from BCA did write and ask and say, "Hey, do you guys want us to do, where they do the strings to match up trajectories for blood and try to find out where a person was standing, where the angle of the possible shooter or the attack was coming from?" And the Apple Valley Police Department wrote back and said, "No, we don't see a need for that." Really? Really? That to me is total incompetence. So we have no one's blood except for Kamel's, yet 4 gunshots that are proven by the autopsy into 3 bodies. Where's all the blood? Where's all the tissue? It's not there. And this is what we've been asking them, the other group who believes David to be guilty. We were saying, hey, where's the proof? Just give us proof. Show us your, something from the evidence. And I have yet to see anything. And if the police can't find it and the police don't write it, where are they getting their information from? I guess maybe that would be a good thing for them to tell us, that, hey, we know somebody who was there or has firsthand knowledge, but I want their proof as well. I don't want their opinion. I want them to back up that opinion with hard evidence. And the evidence is showing there's no way David was guilty. Exactly. Feeding it says they can't provide an evidence-based history. Absolutely true. So true. And they try to go back and say, speaking of the history, they try to say that David snapped, or he was kind of going off the deep end. He was, hiding and pulling away from everybody. Well, we're working on this. Sophia is wait until you see her research that she's doing on part of this evidence. But in the other stuff that we have been working together on, we're finding that the possible reasons why David and Kamel were pulling back was because what he probably found out about those in this inner circle, these gray state guys, their past is not good. And you and I, normal people, would look at that and go, ooh, I just found that out about you. Okay, yeah, it was nice knowing you, and then you would back away. But then also, they were dealing with a lot of stuff where someone had hacked their phone, and this particular person, and I have done that, and I'm gonna, I don't know if this is called doxing, and I don't mean to dox it, but it's in the records, and anyone can go online and find this information. But someone by the name of Kimberly Leyland, I found her phone number attached to David's phone, his cell phone, and his text messages, where calls that would come in or calls that would go out would be routed through Kimberly's phone. And when I did my research on this, I find that Kimberly has a long history with this phone number, because some people were saying or asking, was this phone number possibly, a number that was used by AT&T, to route through so people want to check their messages? No, this phone number is associated with Kimberly Leyland. I could find all the way back to 2008. And there are multiple complaints online about people where Kimberly has hacked their phones, made phone calls, read their text, deleted their text, intervened, and then answered text on behalf of these people. So is that why David just stopped using his phone? Because he found out about this Kimberly person? We don't now, we'll never know. But when you start to look at the history and you see, they'll say, oh, David was pulling back. Well, yeah, who of us would not stop using our phone if we found out that it had been hacked and someone had been accessing our information, our texts, our calls, everything? All of us would say, yeah, I'm not using this phone anymore. So there's explanations for everything, legitimate explanations for everything that the gray state guys, if you want to call it, and that's Danny August Mason, Mason Hendricks, Sean Wright, even Dan Crowley Jr., all of these people who try to make David out to be this crazy nutty guy, everything they've said, there is legitimate reasons for why David did what he did. And then they try to say, too, that he probably was flipped out on either weed or mushrooms or something. And I can't remember which one, if it was Danny August Mason or if it was Sean Wright who was throwing that little tidbit out there. But the toxicology report came back, and his system was clean. Kamel's system was clean. They had nothing. The Camille had something like a pain reliever, kind of like ibuprofen, but that was the only thing found in their system. No alcohol, no drugs, no weed, nothing. So that theory's tossed out. So what caused him to supposedly snap? Detective, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Klonokos, or anyway, I don't know. Yes, and Third Eye Guy says weed doesn't affect you like that. That's true, it doesn't. I've known a lot of people who smoke weed, and not one of them did I see flip out. And then Detective, like I said, Klonokos, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's the one who did all of the research on the devices found in David's, in the Crowley home, wasn't just David's. So he checked every computer, every laptop, every phone, and they found nothing to give motive for David to supposedly snap and kill his family. So, that tells me he didn't do it. There's nothing to back up this history. And with and then, the Gray State guys try to say PTSD. You don't just develop PTSD one day, and then all of a sudden you snap one day and now you have PTSD and you're going to kill everybody. PTSD it's a history. There's a whole long line of behavior that has to be seen and documented. Somebody's going to see this odd, crazy, erratic behavior or depression associated with people. And David didn't have any of that. In fact, most people would say he was a great guy. And not to say he's perfect. All of us have good days and bad days. We all get angry. We're all happy. So it's not like he was this walking angel, but he was an average, everyday guy. So again, that theory blown out the water, not backed up by any of the evidence. So, again, where is the evidence? Just show me something. That's all I'm asking Judy Prochnow and the others, Louise Gibson, Judy Prochnow, Joe Tommaso, Joseph Pierce. These are the main people who like to go online in that attacking mode. And we're just saying, where is the proof? Not to say they can't have an opinion and believe David to be guilty, which is fine. They're allowed. We're allowed to believe he's innocent. They're allowed to believe he's guilty. But if you're going to tell me I'm crazy or I'm nuts, then explain to me why and what your evidence is. And then Third Eye Guy says the project itself is motive for someone to murder him, I think. And I'm sorry, it's like dealing with, I'm around a dog and I'm normally not around dogs. So it's like, I know it's gross, sorry. But yeah, where the project too. I've read both scripts. Well, actually there are several versions of the script. The one of supposedly from 2013 that was recently put online, but then taken down shortly after that. But I got that and I read that. And then I read his 2014. It was a later script that he did. And the later one was the one that he took to the mics in Hollywood. And that was a script that the mics from Hollywood, the producer said, hey, we want to do this. We want to do this in a series. And they were getting ready to sign a multi-contract deal for $30 million. That was the deal on the table. And David said, yeah, great. And they were waiting. And this all happened just before David was killed. So he didn't get the chance to actually sign the contract because they were negotiating it and then getting ready to send it to him. But then he was murdered. But there is and was a deal. Was a deal for $30 million to do a multi-series of Gray State on TV. But the 2016 script, or I'm sorry, not 2016. Oh my goodness, he was gone before then. But the later script is not completely, but way different from the original script. When I read the one from earlier, it was very choppy. The cadence wasn't right. It sounded like there were 2 or 3 different writers. Because different people have a different way of writing. And as you're reading this, I'm like going, okay, this is David's writing. And then it's like, okay, I don't know who this is, because it didn't flow correctly. It's kind of like if we were all in a room, someone said, we're going to write a story about a dog running down the street. And then each one of us wrote a paragraph. And then at the end, you would be able to tell it wasn't written by one person. It was written by multiple. And that's kind of how that one script felt, by multiple people. And it wasn't a very good script. I mean, I didn't like it at all. But then the later one, I wasn't a fan of actually David's script either, but I saw with the trailer, I saw where he would take it. So what he wrote wasn't necessarily what was going to be on the final screen, but you got an idea of where he would take his basic thoughts and then where it would end up. David shone when he put it on film. His written word is one thing, but when he actually started producing something, night and day. It's like I could watch his stuff on screen, forever. He had a really good talent in that area. But again, and at that point, for me, this is my assumption and my opinion, and I think this is where Danny August Mason lost his stuff, because what David had written, the one that he actually presented, which was his work, had nothing to do with anybody else. It was his work, his words. And again, different from the first one. So he didn't have to give anybody any credit for it, because it clearly was his. So from there, I think that's where Danny August Mason kind of lost his stuff, because he was really out of the realm. He not only was not part of the new script, but he wasn't going to be part of the TV movie either. They're like, no, we've got someone else slotted to do these parts. We have someone else in mind to do these parts. So Danny August Mason was going to be out completely. And so there's motive for him. And again, I'm not saying he did it. I'm saying there's his motive. David has no motive. Danny August Mason has motive. Now let's go to Sean Wright, who was also part of this Gray State team. Now, Sean Wright went on Facebook and publicly stated, hey, dude, if you put out the Rise, I think it was the Rise, if you put that out there, I'm going to go to prison for my tax problems. So now he's looking at a 76-year prison term for tax evasion, and he's livid because he's blaming David for that. And David writes back and says, no, man, nothing to do with you, and nothing to do with that is even in this. Don't worry. And Sean's like, you need to call me because I don't want to go to prison. Okay, there's Sean Wright's motive. Again, I'm not saying these people did it, but if we're looking at terms of motive, David had none. Police could find none. We now have motive for Danny August Mason. We have motive for Sean Wright. Now, Dan Jr., and that's his brother. Again, not saying he did it, but did he have motive? Yes. There was a huge rift between Danny Jr. and David. And David had said, he had cut off ties with him. We don't know what happened. And if it's a personal family thing, don't need to know. In my opinion, we don't need to know. But there's a motive. So now we have 3 people, 3 different strong motives, and a man who ends up dead with no motive, and he's being blamed by all of them. So to me, that's questionable. I'm like going, interesting. So, and again, I wish I could share the screen. But again, if you go to Deep State Granny on YouTube, you can find out she's not live. She said she would be live today, 12 o'clock her time, 12 o'clock Central, which is 11 o'clock Mountain Time, which is where I am. And so I've been live now for 21 minutes and she hasn't shown. So I'm going to assume she's not going to show today. None of them are there. Nobody. But yeah, so as far as the case goes, I'm going to wrap this up really quick because I could be sitting here waiting all day and she's not going to show. But I want all you guys to know that, still on it, but we are researching some really interesting things that we are finding. We're finding on Tom Lydon, which is the news reporter out there. Things we're finding on the Apple Valley Police Department as a whole and their connection to Freemasonry. Danny August Mason, who became a Freemason publicly right after David's death. We have things that are going on with text messages, phone messages. The Kimberly Layton, who I think was, I know it's Kimberly. I'm sorry, I just lost her name, but who had been hacking a lot of people's phones, and she also hacked David's. Now, I'm trying to find out if there's a connection between her and any of the guys, or was it just a pure coincidence that David was just one of the numbers she hacked, and she was then, intervening and interceding his texts and his phone calls. Because looking at the data records for his phone, he cut off communications on his phone, stopped using it in November, early November. And by December, early December, nothing. There was no use of a cell phone at all, way before the deaths even occurred. So that tells me maybe David found out someone had hacked his phone. So he's like, great. And then he had to wait till he could afford to get, again, my assumption on that part, purely assumption. He had to wait and to try to get either a new number or a new phone, probably. I don't know. But that is interesting. So we're working on a lot of stuff. It's just taking a while to get all of the research done. And we also have now part of our group helping us do some of this research is a retired police officer and bounty hunter. His name is Stephen Sanziri. And he has been invaluable in helping us how to do things and how to do the research in a legal sense, so that when we do present all of this stuff again, it will be done in the right and proper way. So that maybe, hopefully, the police will pay attention. Doubt it though, because it's interesting to see that how many of these police officers are Freemasons, how many of them belong to a lodge right there in Apple Valley and in Minneapolis. And these guys were the ones, I mean, David, we know in his movie, he was exposing Freemasonry. So again, there are all these ties, all of these ties into people who could have been responsible. And maybe that's why they turned a blind eye. Maybe they're just like, you know what? We don't care. We didn't like you anyway. You were Simon. Again, assumption, my opinion. But it makes sense because they did nothing. They did nothing. They say they researched stuff, and we're finding things on people that they supposedly interviewed, and we're doing research and backing that up, backtracking what they're saying that they did. We can find no proof that actually took place, other than the fact that they wrote it on a report. So lots and lots of interesting things coming up. So thank you guys. Thanks for being patient, and thanks for listening to me just prattle on and probably not say much of anything, but we're working on it, and please be patient and look forward to more videos coming. In the process and in the meantime, I tried to join Greg Fernandez Jr.'s podcast. He does it like once a month. So if I'm not here, I will post that podcast on my channel here as well. But you can also go and listen to a lot of stuff that Greg Fernandez Jr. has been posting on the called the Gray Stage. The Gray Stage on YouTube. Great channel, lots of really good content, and hopefully we're getting close. We're a lot closer than I ever thought we would be, but we're going to get there. So hope you guys have a great day. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll talk to you later, and hopefully I can figure out how to turn this off. Have a great day. I don't know how to turn this off.